Okay, so if I asked you right now to close your eyes and picture the Taj Mahal,
Mm,
I bet I know exactly what you're seeing.
right. The classic postcard image.
Yeah, that perfect white marble, the total symmetry, that reflection in the water, its beauty, its romance, its stability.
It's the definition of an icon,
Mm.
absolutely. But, the problem with icons is that we kind of stop really seeing them.
What do you mean?
We look at them, but we don't look into them. We see the pretty picture, but we miss the sheer madness that went into creating it.
Right. And that is exactly why we're doing this deep dive today. We've got a stack of research, including a really great technical breakdown from ZEM and we're going to peel back that white marble facade.
Yeah.
Because the reality of the Taj Mahal is not poetry in stone. It's more like a billion-dollar architectural paradox.
Built on top of a recipe for disaster. It really is. I mean, if you strip away the romance for just a second, what you have is this massive, incredibly heavy tomb built directly on unstable river mud. By any, 17th century engineering logic, it just shouldn't be standing.
And yet, here we are. So our mission today is to get past that seventh wonder label and really unpack the how.
The nitty-gritty.
Exactly. We're talking about optical illusions that mess with your brain, some earthquake proofing from the 1600s, and this is my favorite part, a construction glue made from stuff you probably have in your kitchen.
It sounds absurd, doesn't it? But that kitchen glue is a critical piece of the whole thing.
Oh.
But before we get to the chemistry, we have to understand the human story. This wasn't just a project, it was an obsession.
An obsession that employed 20,000 people for 22 years.
And nearly bankrupted the wealthiest empire on Earth at the time.
So let's start there, with the money. Because expensive doesn't quite cover it. The source material estimates that if you tried to build the Taj today, you'd be looking at over $1 billion.
Over $1 billion. Something like 7.5 crore rupees.
Yeah.
It's a staggering amount of money for a mausoleum.
But to understand that, you have to understand who was writing the check.
Exactly. This story starts in 1607 with Prince Khurram, who later becomes Emperor Shah Jahan. And you have to remember, the Mughal Empire at this time wasn't just rich. They held something like 25% of the entire world's GDP.
There's a detail in the notes that just perfectly illustrates this. For his 15th birthday, this weighing ceremony.
Now, the Tuladona, yes, a royal tradition.
They literally put the prince on a massive scale.
Mm-hmm.
And on the other side, they just piled on diamonds and gold and silks until it balanced, and then they just gave it all to him.
It's a level of wealth that's hard to even wrap your head around.
Totally. I mean, I got a gift card for my 15th birthday. He got his body weight in gold.
It really sets the scene, though. He grew up in a world where material limits just didn't really exist. If you wanted something, you just willed it into being with gold.
But the defining moment of his life wasn't about money. It was meeting Mumtaz Mahal.
Right. This is the love story everyone knows. But the sources point out this wasn't just a standard political marriage. He had other wives, 6 eventually, but Mumtaz was different.
She was his partner.
She really was. She wasn't just a consort, she was a political advisor. He gave her the title Queen of the World. She held the royal seal. She was reviewing state decrees. So when he becomes Shah Jahan, Emperor of the world, she's right there with him.
Which is what makes the crash in 1631 so much more devastating. The empire's at its peak, everything's going right. And then, while on a military campaign, Mumtaz dies in childbirth. And I had to pause when I read this. She was giving birth to their 14th child.
14. It's a staggering number. And the tragedy of it just completely broke him. The historical accounts are vivid.
He went into seclusion, didn't eat for 8 days, apparently.
And when he came out, his hair had turned white. He gave up music, perfumes, all of it, for 2 years.
It's like a clinical depression playing out on the world stage. But she made a dying wish.
She did. She asked for her grave to be inside the most beautiful tomb in the world.
And he took that promise.
Yeah.
Very, very literally.
And that promise is what triggers this absolutely monumental construction project. Just 6 months after she dies, it begins.
And this is where the logistics get crazy. He brings in 20,000 laborers, not just from India.
No, this was an international team. Sculptors from Bukhara, calligraphers from Syria, stonecutters from Baluchistan.
A migration, really.
It was. And the sources mention a fascinating side effect of this. The population of Agra just exploded so quickly it actually created a regional food crisis.
Wait, for real? Building the Taj Mahal caused a famine?
A localized one, yeah. So Shah Jahan had to start importing grain from other provinces just to keep the workforce from starving.
Wow.
A whole city basically popped up overnight just to build this one monument.
That really puts the scale of it into perspective. But that pop-up city had a huge problem right from the start. The location.
The location. Mumtaz was buried right on the bank of the Yamuna River.
And I'm no engineer, but building a giant stone building on soft, wet river mud sounds like a terrible idea.
It is a civil engineering nightmare. This is that paradox we talked about. You have millions of tons of stone, and you want to put it on soil that's basically sludge.
It's like trying to stand a brick on a marshmallow.
Exactly. A normal foundation would just sink or crack or tilt. The water would wash it away.
So in 1632, with no modern tech, how do they solve this? They can't just move the grave.
No, that's the spot.
Yeah.
So they used a technique that was, well, it was brilliant in its simplicity, but incredibly hard work. They dug wells.
Wells, like for water.
Exactly like that, visually. They dug a whole grid of deep wells going down through all the soft soil until they hit hard, dry ground. But then, instead of leaving them empty,
They filled them up.
they filled them up, packed them tight with rocks and rubble and mortar.
Ah, I see. So they're basically creating columns underground.
Precisely. It's a kind of primitive pile foundation. They built their own artificial bedrock right in the middle of the swamp.
That is incredible. They didn't fight the soil, they just bypassed it.
And the scale of this was huge. They mentioned using an army of elephants just for the heavy lifting and compacting. They raised the whole site by about 50 feet to protect it from floods.
So the foundation is solid. They've beaten the mud. Now for the structure itself. And this is where we get into the visual engineering, which is my favorite part. The whole thing is basically a giant magic trick.
It was completely designed to manipulate your perception. The Mughal architects were masters of perspective. The best example is when you arrive at the main gate.
Right. Walk us through that.
So when you're standing outside, looking through the dark archway of the gate, the Taj Mahal looks enormous. It fills your whole view. It seems overwhelming, almost close. But then, as you walk through the gate into the open courtyard, it seems to shrink.
That's so weird. Things are supposed to get bigger as you get closer.
It's completely counterintuitive. They frame it so that you lose all context at first. Then, when you step out, you see the gardens in the sky, and the building settles into its true distance. It's designed to give you a sense of awe, and then a sense of approachability.
But there's another trick that's not just for show. It's actually a safety feature. Those 4 minarets, the towers at the corners,
Yeah.
they aren't straight, are they?
Not at all. They're all leaning slightly outwards, away from the main dome.
Now, if I saw a leaning tower, my first thought would be foundation failure. But this was planned.
100% intentional, for 2 reasons. First, it's a visual trick. If they were perfectly straight, the big dome in the middle would make them look like they were leaning inward.
So tilting them out makes them look straight to our eyes.
Exactly. It corrects the distortion. But the second reason is pure disaster planning.
You mean earthquake proofing?
Earthquake proofing.
It
In the
is.
1600s, Agra is in a seismic zone. They knew it was a risk. So by angling the towers outwards, if a massive quake ever hit,
They'd fall away from the tomb.
it'd fall away, out into the gardens, and not crashing down onto the main dome and Mumtaz's crypt.
That is some serious forward thinking. It shows they weren't just artists, they were risk managers.
That was the entire mindset, perfection and permanence. And speaking of the design, Shah Jahan didn't just invent it from scratch. It's more like a compilation.
A greatest hits of his family's architecture.
It really is. The source breaks it down. The minarets were inspired by his father's tomb. The big square base came from his grandfather's tomb. Even the giant dome was inspired by his uncle's tomb. He just perfected all of it.
Let's talk about that dome. It's 40 meters high. And again, no steel, no concrete skeleton, just stone.
Just stone. And the physics of a dome are unforgiving. All that weight pushing down wants to spread the base out and crack it.
Right, like pushing down on a tennis ball.
Exactly. They used a double dome, an inner and outer shell, to manage the stress and the calculations. Modern engineers have studied it and found the stress distribution is almost perfect.
Wow.
They were basically doing calculus with masonry.
So we have to talk materials, because you can't build the pearl of the world with any old rock.
No. And this is a common misconception. The Taj isn't solid marble. The core is actually millions of baked bricks.
So it's a brick building wearing a very, very expensive marble suit.
An exquisite suit made of Makrana marble, which is legendary. It's incredibly hard, non-porous. It stays white. But it comes from Rajasthan, 400 kilometers away.
And this detail just shows Shah Jahan's obsession. He put a monopoly on the mines.
He did.
No one else in the entire empire could buy a single piece of Makrana marble until the tomb was done.
He froze the market. Then he had to transport thousands of tons of it, 400 kilometers. Again, enter the elephants. A constant train of elephants and carts for years. The supply chain management is a whole other story.
But once the marble got there, they started the decoration, the pietra dura.
Yes, this is that intricate inlay art. They'd cut precious stones, jade, lapis lazuli, turquoise into tiny shapes.
And fit them into the marble.
Fit them in perfectly. It's like a stone jigsaw puzzle with invisible seams. A single 1-inch flower might have 60 separate tiny pieces of stone in it.
Which brings us to the secret sauce, the glue. You mentioned this. Lab tests have actually proven what they used.
They have. They analyzed the binding agent. And it's a mixture of shira, which is like a molasses or sugar syrup, lemon juice, and marble powder.
Molasses and lemon juice. It sounds like a salad dressing.
It does, but the chemistry is sound. The acid, the calcium carbonate, the sugar as a binder, it creates this incredibly durable but also semi-flexible bond.
And flexible is the key, right?
That's the key. Stone expands and contracts with heat. A rigid modern glue would cause the inlay to pop out. This organic mix sort of breathes with the stone. In fact, they still use the same 400-year-old recipe for renovations today because it works better than modern synthetics.
That's fascinating that something so sweet is holding those priceless gems together. And the result of all this is that the building itself seems to change color.
It does. It plays with the light. The marble is slightly translucent, so before sunrise it looks kind of dark, blackish. After sunrise it gets this light yellow and pinkish hue. In the afternoon it's that spectacular, brilliant white. And then at sunset, it turns golden.
It sounds perfect, absolutely perfect, but perfection has a price. And this story, it does not have a happy ending.
No, this is the tragic second act. The project took 22 years. It finished around 1654. But the cost was so high, it brought the empire to what the source calls the edge of ruination.
And his family noticed. Specifically, his son noticed.
His son, Aurangzeb, noticed. In 1658, just 4 years after the masterpiece was done, he staged a coup. He basically looked at the empty treasury and his father's spending and said, "You're done."
Wow, thanks for the tomb, Dad. Now get out.
It was a cold political move. Aurangzeb imprisoned his own father in the Agra fort.
And this is the part that sounds like it's from a movie. He wasn't in a dungeon.
No, he was under house arrest in a beautiful tower. But they gave him one. Cruel luxury.
A window.
A window that looked out over the river directly at the Taj Mahal.
So he spent the last 8 years of his life just staring at it.
Staring at the tomb of the woman he loved. The monument that was the cause of his downfall. He couldn't go to it. He could only watch it from his prison.
He died there at 74.
Yep.
And he was eventually buried inside the Taj with her.
Yes, and that's actually the one flaw in the building's symmetry. Mumtaz's tomb is in the perfect center. His is squeezed in next to hers, off-center.
Because he never planned to be there.
Exactly. He was the one asymmetrical element in his own masterpiece.
It's such a heavy story. It's a monument to extreme love, extreme grief, and, as we've seen, extreme engineering.
And extreme consequences. It really is a reminder that great beauty often comes from great turmoil. They solved the problem of the river and gravity, but they couldn't solve the problem of the cost.
So what does this all mean? I think it changes how you look at these wonders of the world. They're not magic. They're math and sweat and very messy human drama.
Absolutely. When you look at the Taj Mahal, don't just see the marble. Think about the wells holding it up from below. Think about the lemon juice glue. And think about the emperor in the window.
And here's a final thought for you to mull over. The Taj Mahal was designed to be earthquake-proof, to be visually perfect, to last forever. But the empire that built it, it started to crumble almost the moment it was finished, largely because of the cost of building it.
It really makes you ask the question, was the perfection worth the price? Does the immortality of the art justify the collapse of the power that created it?
Something to think about. And hey, if you ever do visit Agra, don't just take the selfie. Walk around to the side and check those minarets. See if you can spot the lean.
And maybe bring a magnifying glass for the inlay. He might just bought the sugar syrup.
Thanks for diving in with us. We'll catch you on the next one.